So if you look at the syllabus, we have again 5 units, and these are the topics covered in unit 1. All right, now remaining units are fine. Whatever is given in the syllabus, right, from there, they are asking questions as well, like what are the steps involved in research, write a short note on citation. Topics are from the syllabus itself. But if you look at the first unit, right, there are a lot many different questions that we see in every single year. So what we will do is we will cover these topics which are mentioned in your syllabus. And after that, we will see some previous year question papers also, what questions were there in those question papers from all the different units. Okay. And if you have any doubts in between regarding any topics or anything, you can stop me in between and just ask it. Okay. And we can see this. Okay. So the first topic that we have is, what is law? Is law necessary? Essential functions of legal process, essence of law. These are the topics covered. All right. Now, before starting, what is law as per you?
It's basic sets of rules and regulations
Rules
which a person in a country has to follow.
Okay. And where these rules and regulations are like written?
In a statute.
In a statute. All right. Any examples of statutes?
Ma'am, Constitution.
Constitution. Okay. And?
IPC, CRPC, CPC.
Right. So there are different statutes where rules and regulations are mentioned. Fine. And we need to follow these rules and regulations. Now, there are 2 different types of legislations. One is that talks about our rights and our obligations. Like if you take the example of IPC, it tells you that you should not just kill someone. You cannot just kill someone. You cannot cause harm to another person. You cannot take another person's property just like that. Otherwise, it would be a crime, and punishment is also prescribed there under IPC. But now if your right has been violated, okay, fine, someone has still committed the crime, even after having IPC, even after having so many different legislations. What if someone still violates it? What if someone still commits some wrong? Then you need to go to court, right? Maybe you would file an FIR, and that process, what would happen inside the court, right? That process is written in like a different set of statutes, like you said, CRPC, CPC, we have Limitation Act. Okay, like that, we have basically 2 different sets of legislations or statutes. One talking about our rights, about our obligations, about the consequences, what would happen if we violate those provisions. And there is another set of legislations or statutes that in detail mentions the process, how you will approach the court, what would be the steps that a case will involve. All these are mentioned. Okay, so law is nothing but, as you said, rules and regulations that we need to regulate members of the society, because we all have differences in our opinions, in our interests, likes, dislikes, and whatnot. So it's very important that there is uniformity of behavior and there is constancy of happening. If a person commits a crime, the punishment that the person would face, it would be similar kind of punishment that another person will face, right? And what is bail?
Ma'am, bail is kind of a court order which allows a prisoner to come out of the custody. It could be anticipatory as well. Like people can apply before they are charged or maybe taken into custody.
Yes, correct. You have a lot of information already in first semester, anticipatory bail and all.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, I did prepare for CLAT, so I read a bit about all of this.
Okay.
I mean, I started very late in March month, so that's why I couldn't get into NLU or anything. But if I would have started early, I would have got into.
Okay, March is like too late.
Yes, ma'am. And then I got 7,000 rank, so it was decent, but it wasn't good for NLU as I don't have any, quota or something.
Yes, correct. So you studied yourself or you joined some institute?
No, ma'am, I studied mostly myself, and I took help from my brother in maths and subjects like that because I'm from bio background, so I did not know how to do maths things. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good then. Okay, that's what I was thinking. Like in first semester, you have enough of information. Okay, good then. So again, when we talk about laws, right? Law is not as such static, right? There would be different changes. There would be amendments that are made, right? Some laws may be repealed, new legislation may be passed. All these are necessary. Okay, so all these are necessary, and that's how law changes with time as well, so that it can deal with the situations properly. And when we talk about this, right, what is law? There are lot many times questions are being framed that define law. Okay, so when you get this question, what is the difference between these questions? What is law, or what is the meaning of law versus definition of law, define law? What is the difference? Like, how would you answer it?
Ma'am, what is law could be something, a basic gist of it, and definitions are given by different jurists according to how they felt law was.
Correct. So there are some topics that you would get, right? Like in jurisprudence and all that. Are you doing B.A.LL.B, BBA? What is it?
Ma'am, I'm doing B.A.LL.B.
B.A.LL.B. Okay. So there will be different subjects in law where you will get this question. Like it's a very common question. Define a certain word. Okay. So because it's very common that they ask for definition of law, you can study 3-4 definitions as well. These are very simple definitions that I have added. Okay. First, there is a meaning of law, and along with that, there are some definitions. First one is given by Blackstone. He says, law in its most general and comprehensive sense signifies a rule of action, whether animate, inanimate, rational, irrational. So these are basically the definitions given. There are a lot many other definitions also. You can look for the definitions that you find maybe easy to remember, and you can remember like 4 or 5 definitions for the purpose of exam. Okay, plus what is law? Okay, now along with that, we have functions of law. So we have functions of law, plus we have, is law necessary? Is law necessary for the society or not? Those are again 2 different topics which are covered. Okay, if we talk about functions of law, what do you think are the main functions that law performs?
Ma'am, it could be maintaining peace and order in the society, and avoiding maintaining peace. Or
you can think of the laws that maybe you have studied, or might be the topics like, okay, if you have studied about murder, what is the purpose of having that? Maybe to ensure safety and security of the people, like that. What would be different functions according to?
yes, ma'am, could be security, and there are laws to ensure that proper trade is facilitated.
Right. So when we talk about laws, there are you able to, like, am I audible, or are you facing like issues in your network?
No, ma'am, you're audible.
I'm audible, right? Okay, fine. So functions of law, when we talk about it, there are a lot many different functions that law performs. Okay, and it's not just about statutes. There are some orders, notifications may be passed. In some case laws, guidelines may be issued. There are a lot of different sources from where we derive the law. Okay, so functions, when we talk about functions, first of all, maintenance of law and order in the society. We all need to behave in a certain way, right? It should not happen that people are doing whatever they feel like. Maintenance of law and order in the society is very much needed so that we can live peacefully, right? Take, for example, just imagine you are maybe riding or driving and there is no traffic rules or nothing. People are just driving in their own ways. There is no rules, no regulations as such. it would make our life so difficult, right? And it would also, it would make it very risky to drive or ride or even to go out. Why? Because there is, again, no law and order in the society. People are just doing whatever they feel like. In such a case, it would be extremely difficult in keeping peace in the country for people to enjoy their rights. That's why we need laws, so that there are some basic minimum things that we all follow. Like if there is a traffic signal, you need to stop there. You don't have any other option. It just makes life of everyone better, right? So that is one function, maintenance of law and order in the society, so that everyone can live peacefully in the society. Now, what is fundamental rights and statutory rights? Have you read anything on that? Fundamental rights?
Ma'am, fundamental rights are basically rights that are given in our constitution. And statutory rights are basically which are given in other statutes like IPC.
Okay. Can you give me two examples of a fundamental right and maybe a statutory right?
Fundamental right, ma'am, right to freedom and of speech, religion, and right to equality. And statutory rights, ma'am, I can't recall statutory rights.
Okay, statutory rights also, there are many examples. Take for example, have
maybe
you
ma'am,
yeah,
right to trade also comes in fundamental rights, I guess. It's
yeah,
not
it
statutory,
comes,
right?
yeah, it comes under that. Sometimes it may happen that you have it as a fundamental right, plus there is like a legislation in elaborate, it is also providing for it. That also might happen. Okay, so statutory right, as in, have you heard of intellectual property rights?
Yes, ma'am.
These are again nothing but statutory rights, right? If you have created something, if you have written something, you have a right, it becomes your intellectual property, right? Other people cannot simply use it. This is nothing but statutory rights. So whatever these different rights are, it is law which provides for protection, right? If otherwise you would have said that, okay, fine, what if someone has produced this movie? What I will do is, while going to watch this movie, I will take my camera along, I would record everything, and I would post it everywhere. I would just circulate it amongst my friends. You could have done it, but why you are not doing it? Because law is providing for a protection, right? That is not allowed. If you take the example of recently, what I have seen is Amazon videos would be there, right? Amazon Prime. Take for example, yes, if you are playing any video on Amazon Prime, okay, and you want to, might be in your laptop, you are playing it and you want to take a screenshot of it. All right, the moment you like, you are about to take the screenshot, right? This entire screen would become like black. You cannot take a screenshot of any of the things. Have you seen that?
Yes, ma'am, I have.
Okay, I recently saw that. Like I was just watching some videos and I really like some, I think this thing like a drawer I really liked. I wanted to take a screenshot and then this entire screen went black. So that is again nothing but a protection given, right? Because they don't know what is the purpose. Why am I even taking a screenshot of that? So these are nothing but protections given. It might be fundamental rights, maybe different types of statutory rights. So all the fundamental rights that you were talking about, how protection is given?
Ma'am, we have writ jurisdiction in Article 32 and 226 for the High Court to approach High Court.
Very good. Very good. You can directly get promoted to, I think, second semester. Right? Okay,
no, ma'am, I don't know legal methods at all.
Legal methods is, I think, like related to jurisprudence, which is not included in CLAT syllabus, right? That's
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
But you would find all these subjects very easy, right? Torts, contract, constitution.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That I have read a bit.
Yes, correct. So it's nothing but protection of fundamental rights and statutory rights. When we talk about fundamental rights, yes, you can directly approach the Supreme Court also. When you talk about statutory rights, mostly in the statute, it may mention that so-and-so court you can go, you can file a case like this. Like if you take the example of check bounce, the legislation itself clearly mentions you need to go to a magistrate court. What would be the process? Most of the times it would be written and accordingly you need to do it. Okay, which court would you go for the crimes under IPC?
Ma'am, we can go to High Court as well.
Directly?
Ma'am, first, when the person is arrested, we go to magistrate court for like 24-hour hearing. And then according to the crime, it gets, I think it goes to the further courts.
Yes. So correct. When a person is arrested within 24 hours, investigation should be completed or he would be produced before the magistrate. And then it can be any magistrate, whether he's having jurisdiction, not having jurisdiction, does not matter. But when you talk about the court having the authority or right jurisdiction to try the matter for cases under IPC, right? It's actually given in CRPC. You have like a detailed list of it, which is in first schedule. Okay, first schedule of CRPC, you can check that also in your free time. That provides for detailed list. See here it mentions the section, which section it is, what is the offense all about, what is the punishment, and which court you would be going. Okay, it mentions specifically like court of session, magistrate, first class, that court only you need to go. Depending on how severe is the matter, if it's like very severe or very something, you would go to sessions court. Otherwise, mostly you would go to magistrate court. Like that, it has been specified. And same ways for most of the legislations, you will see it specifies that for this certain matter, you need to go to magistrate court, do this, like that, it would specify. Okay, now, a source of development of new laws. From where laws develop? What are the sources of law? Sources as in from where law is coming.
Ma'am, statute is in the source of law?
Yeah, that is a source of law where law is written, but from where they got the idea that, okay, let's frame something like this?
Ma'am, like Constituent Assembly formed our laws. So
Constituent Assembly formed Constitution. What about other laws?
Yes, ma'am.
There are many sources. Okay, like
yes, ma'am. They got inspired from other constitutions and from other schools of jurisprudence, I guess.
Yeah, there may be different sources. Like we have from customs also, someone may get inspiration by seeing other countries' laws. There may be a lot of different sources. Okay, now when you talk about a statute, a rule book, right, that acts as a source of development of new laws, as in when you already have a legislation existing, okay, you would know what are the things, what are the problem areas in that legislation, right? You already have one legislation ready, like take for example IPC, and you are trying to make use of it in the real world, and then you would realize, okay, these are the things which we need to improve maybe. Okay, so what you can do when you have a law existing, you can take reference of that and you can make you can improvise on that. You can have a new law, you can make it better. Have you heard of this Nirbhaya gang rape case of Delhi?
Ma'am, I have.
You have?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. After that particular incident, right, there were everywhere in the country, there were protests and everything, right? After that, it was realized that there are a lot of problems that we are having in criminal law. Okay, and we had Criminal Law Amendment Act. By way of that, a lot many changes were done in IPC. Okay, and other legislations also. That means because we were already having IPC, we could identify what is the problem there. We were already having Juvenile Justice Act. That's how we could identify what is the problem in Juvenile Justice Act, and we made those corrections. Okay, what is the correction made in Juvenile Justice Act? Are you aware of that? After Nirbhaya case?
I'm not aware.
You are
I just know that one of the offender was a juvenile, so that's why the amendments were made. But I don't know what were the amendments.
Yeah, main reason, I'll tell you what was the main reason. That juvenile, like you said, right, one of the offenders, like the main culprit was juvenile, and he was around this age, 16 to 18 years of age. Okay, so what happens when a person is 16 to 18 years of age? He cannot be punished like a normal adult. Those severe punishments would not be applicable. He will be tried under Juvenile Justice Act, and their punishment is like maximum up to 3 years. He would be sent to a rehab. He would get there, like he would be kept there because they don't want him to like mingle with others, like criminals. That's why for juveniles there would be like separate rehab centers where that person would be sent. During that Nirbhaya case, it was realized that most of the times when in a crime juvenile is there, right, that juvenile would be around this age only, 16 to 18 years of age. Most of the times they would be like 17 years and 10 months. Might be just because of 2 months they got the chance to escape this entire punishment thing, right? All the other criminals were given death penalty, and this juvenile could escape from the punishment even though he was the main culprit in that case. So they realized that there is a major defect that we have in criminal laws. What we need to do is, for this age group of 16 to 18 years, right, they are not kids. Most of them have already they are like mentally developed persons, right? They are not kids anymore. Most of them have attained maturity. So what we need to say is, when a case is filed before court and the accused person is 16 to 18 years of age, court would try to see whether he is mature or not. If he is found to be mature, he would be tried like a normal adult. The provisions, the punishment of IPC would be applicable. He would not get these benefits of Juvenile Justice Act. Okay, that means these corrections were made. How? Because we were already having Juvenile Justice Act. That's how we could identify what are the problems that are prevailing in that legislation. This is again another function of law. It acts as a source of development of new laws. From this, we are becoming better, and finally we have a legislation that can solve the problem properly. That's why we see most of the time so many amendments. One legislation is repealed, another one is coming. All these are because of this function that law performs. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what is that? You want to explain? Bring orderly change through law and social reform.
Oh, sorry, ma'am, I couldn't hear you.
Bring orderly.
What is that picture?
Yeah, what is this point all about? You want to explain?
Yes, ma'am. As much as I could understand by this picture is that there's a sati and she's dying with her husband. So basically laws should develop over the time, and the customs which are not exactly the right thing to follow should be removed after a particular point of time with the help of law.
Yes, correct. So when we talk about sources of law, custom is a major source. We see what we used to follow, in earlier times. From there we take some reference. Okay, but just because we are following something for a very long time, just because something is a custom, it does not mean that all customs would be good only. There might be some bad customs also, right? So while making laws, fine, you can take help from prevailing customs. But if there are any bad customs which are existing, okay, you need to take help of law and bring social reform. You need to make that change. Like sati, which was followed for a very long time, we could get rid of it only by way of a legislation, right? Legislation was introduced, and now even if the legislation is no more existing, nobody would do this practice, because we have that social reform we have achieved, right? We have realized that it's not a good thing. Same ways, there are issues like child marriage. dowry and all that, which we are again trying to deal with it. But yes, we have a legislation, still crimes are happening, but we are again taking help of law, right? So it is law that helps us to bring orderly change, bring the necessary social reforms which we need as members of a society. Okay, then deliver justice.
Okay.
Delivering justice is very important. Okay, now when we talk about different types of laws, it may be classified into two broad categories. Okay, one is civil and one is criminal. Are you aware what is the difference between civil and criminal law?
Ma'am, one is against society and one is against person. Matlab civil, one is against a person or a firm or an organization, but one is against the whole society. One is the one's procedure has been done in a criminal court and the other one's is done in civil court. The punishment for civil crimes are less and for criminal are more and could be rigorous at times. So, and death penalty is something that couldn't be given in civil cases and it's given in criminal cases.
Yes, correct. So when we talk about delivering justice, right, there are different types of punishments which are available. Like you said, in case of criminal, it's severe. Punishments are also severe, like death penalty, rigorous imprisonment and all that. In case of civil, what we want to do is we want to provide compensation to the person. Might be you have suffered some loss. For that, court would ask that, okay, you need to compensate the person. Why? Because we want to bring that person to the same state, same position where he would have been if this crime was, if this offense was not committed. Okay, take for example, road traffic accident. A person suffers because of a road traffic accident and he has to spend a lot of money in his treatment and everything. Okay, that means if this accident was not there, he would have not spent all that money in his treatment, right? So what we want to do by way of a civil law, we would ask this other person that you need to provide this compensation. You need to pay this medical expenses to the person because we want to bring him back to the same position where he was. He spent all that money unnecessarily. So now you compensate that person. That is the aim of providing justice. In case of civil, mostly compensation would be provided, or maybe court will pass some injunction orders that you should stop doing this certain thing, or maybe you need to do this, like that. In case of criminal, severe punishments are given to provide justice so that the victim also feels like, okay, if this person did this wrong to me, he has also suffered. He also went to jail for maybe 7 years, right? That, like, different concepts also we have with regard to justice, and delivering justice is one of the prime objectives that we have, right? Prime function that law performs. Whatever incident takes place, you would see protests going on. We want justice, we want justice. So what is this justice? Who would give it? By way of law, courts would provide it. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Then control of political system. Now we have 3 different organs of government, right? What are these organs of government?
Legislature, executive, and judiciary.
Legislature, executive, and judiciary. Correct. Now we know that, okay, executive, all the ministers and everything, they cannot feel like, okay, fine, now we are been elected by the people, now we will do whatever we feel like. No, just because they became like ministers or they became members of parliament, they cannot bring whatever laws they feel like. They cannot do whatever they feel like. Okay, there is control on political system. Even their powers and functions are also restricted or limited. Take for example, if there is this people, members of parliament, they have decided that, okay, now we are members of parliament. What we will do is we will change the entire constitution only. From tomorrow, there will be no constitution. IPCs would be like supreme law of land. They cannot do that. Okay, there are some inherent restrictions that you can make some here and there changes in constitution, but you cannot change like the basic structure of constitution. Like that, there are so many restrictions which are applicable in political system also. Once a person is elected, he becomes minister, he cannot say that I will remain a president or prime minister for my entire life. After that, my next generation people would become president or prime minister. No, there are restrictions for that as well, right? Time limit is fixed, election process, everything is given under law. So law also controls political system. They cannot become like arbitrary. Whatever I feel like I would do that, that is not possible.
Okay.
Okay, protection of minorities against majorities. Now, when we talk about minorities, they might be linguistic minority, they might be religious minority, right? Many times we see that majority people trying to suppress the minority, right? In order to reduce those like chances, right? What happens? We have provisions like reservation. We have so many schemes which are providing benefits to minority people, scholarships given to minority students and whatnot, right? So many provisions are there for this minority. And these provisions are again mentioned in law only, right? Law sets how much percentage of reservation can be provided, right? What would be different types of schemes that we will launch for protecting minorities. Even under Constitution, we have some rights given to the minorities. They can open their own institution. They would be getting some, like help or assistance from the government. So many provisions are there. This is again nothing but law, which is trying to protect minorities against majorities from any kind of suppression or any violation of their rights. Okay, then regulations relating to trade, business and profession, etc. I think you mentioned that starting of the class, right? So it is law again that regulates everything. Like, would you be able to practice straight away after completing your 5 years LLB course, or you need to follow some formalities?
Ma'am, first I have to give the bar council exam.
Bar council
then
exam.
I'll be able to practice.
Yes, you need to appear for bar council exam, get your license. After that only you can start your practice. Same ways for different businesses, different trades, you need to obtain a license, you need to take some permissions, approvals, some NOCs. So many other formalities are there, right? Different departments are regulating those also. So this is again nothing but coming under law only, right? We have Bar Council of India Act also. So all these things are regulated by way of a law or a legislation, what rules, regulations, etc. will be followed. When you talk about an institution also, your college or your university, they are also established under a legislation. Their rules and regulations are specified. Okay, for your university also, it's not like they would function the way they feel like. There is a legislation which specifies all the rules, regulations, and everything. They need to function based on those legislations only. If there is a shop and all, you would see they would do some yearly audits would happen, right? There would be some registrations. Most of the shops you would see, they would just display the registration certificate. Have you seen it anywhere?
Yes, ma'am. Also, I think in companies there are bylaws and articles and memorandums for the regulation of the business.
Yes, for regulation of business, they can frame some bylaws and also that they can function properly. Correct. There are so many notifications issued, orders, so many things happening within the company or within the organization. These are also nothing but regulated by way of law. Next is regulates economic activities in the country. Whatever transactions happen, it's not like we can do whatever we feel like. Like if you take the example of Amazon, as such, whatever we are buying from Amazon, we are not buying it from Amazon, but there are different vendors, right, who are selling their things on Amazon, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So take, for example, I came to know that, okay, fine, Amazon is like an open, almost like an open platform. I can also sell something. If I want to sell something, I cannot directly sell it. There are some regulations that I need to follow. Like I need to have GST certificate and all that. right? That means economic activities in the country are also regulated. Like we need to pay income tax, there are sales tax, we need to pay GST for goods and services that we are purchasing. All these are nothing but government is regulating by way of different legislations, economic activities that are taking place within the country. Okay, regulates human relations. Take, for example, in school, we would be like, if I don't feel like talking to a person, I would say, okay, Katti, I would not speak to you for maybe, I would never speak to you. We used to do like that, right? It used to be so simple. If I don't feel like, okay, fine, I'll not speak to you. But
Yes, ma'am.
In real life, that does not happen, right? Take, for example, someone may say in school, someone may say that, okay, I like you so much, you are my boyfriend, you are my girlfriend. Next day, they might say that, no, break up. I'm not talking to you. Those things might happen, but in real life, it's not how things work, right? Once a person gets married, the person cannot say that, okay, I don't feel like, I don't like you, so I'm getting divorced. It's not that easy to get divorced, right? It's not that easy to get out of a certain, like terms or a relation.
Contract.
Contract.
Yes,
Yeah, you can say contract or some relation that you have entered. There are so many formalities. Like take, for example, divorce, there are laws relating to it. If you talk about maybe judicial separation, not like divorce, but you are separating from the person. Relating to adoption, I cannot say that, okay, this kid is so cute, I want to adopt you. Okay, come, I am adopting you. It's not like that how it happens. Child custody, for everything we have laws. For every single thing, people go to the court and file a case. That means, again, law is even regulating human relations, right? What kind of relations we will have, with whom we will have, how can we end these relations? Every single thing is regulated by the law. Then we have resolving disputes. Like there is a possibility that because we have all the differences in our opinion and everything, there might be disputes taking place amongst people. So how that dispute would be resolved, there also we have laws. Like, is it that we are going to the court, taking help of the court would pass a decision, that's how we would function? Or is it that we want to opt for some maybe mediation and all, right? We would try to settle the matter. We would try to come to like a settlement, right? I would compromise something, you also compromise something, and we try to settle the dispute. There are different ways mentioned under different laws. That is also another function that law performs in case there is a dispute. How do we resolve that particular dispute? Okay, establishing standards. It's not like whatever I feel like I would just make it and then I would start selling it. There has to be a certain standard. Like if you remember, there was a ban on sale of Maggie, right? Few years back.
Yes, ma'am.
Why was that ban? Because they were not following that minimum standard. Many times you would see Consumer Protection Act, there are forums established. They would impose like heavy fine because a certain service provider is not maintaining a standard. Recently, last year, there was one case where 2 crores compensation was given to a model because she did not like the haircut plus hair treatment. There was some problems with that. And she filed a case, she got 2 crores compensation. That means it's nothing but law that is regulating a certain standard. It has to be of this minimum standard. You cannot just do whatever you feel like. Okay.
Okay.
International relations. For that also, we have a lot many different legislations. Law is responsible for conducting and making international relations. It plays an important role in forming economic, diplomatic, and strategic relations with other nations. We have different laws relating to how what would be rights of a person to travel abroad. If you are like importing something from a foreign country, what would be the customs, what would be the charges that you need to pay? All these we have different laws relating to it, right? We have Customs Act where a lot of different provisions are given. For international relations also, different laws are prevailing that regulates these kind of relations amongst people. Okay, and then lastly, interpretation of law. Law also helps us to understand or to derive meaning out of a certain provision. Like when you read a certain legislation, the provision might look a little complicated. But when we take help of some different maybe sources or some different aids which are available, we are in a position to understand that law in a better way. This is nothing but interpretation of law. We even have one entire unit on that, right? Interpretation of statutes, that tells us how to derive meaning from a certain provision given in a legislation. Okay, so this is again another very important function that law performs. Okay, and then you can put a conclusion. And in fact, there are many different functions that law performs. You can simply think about 2-3 different laws that you know of, and you would immediately start recalling that, okay, this is also another function that law performs. That is also another function which law is performing. Like that, there are different functions which different laws are performing, and we have thousands of legislations also in India, right? So different laws are introduced for different purposes. Okay, is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.